Welcome to today's episode of Retail Initiative. I am so glad that you are here. I just want to get right into it. This is an episode that's been on my mind all week, and I've been so excited to share with you. So we're going to do the whole theme song thing, and then we're going to get right into it. The rules of retail are changing. One by one, corporate retailers are closing their doors, and some call it the death of retail. But those rules never apply to independent retailers like us. We're writing our own rules. We're here to answer the questions about how to grow your business, stay competitive, and still have a life. I'm Josh Orr, and this is the Retail Initiative Podcast. So today's episode is a little bit of a rant, but it's something that I think is really useful and definitely applies to you, assuming that, well, I'd say that you're a retailer, really that you're a human. I'm a part of a bunch of different Facebook groups, and I have friends that are really opinionated, and someone had posted something about like a marketer that I'm a really big fan of, or not even really, they had posted something not about the marketer, but just about a strategy that this guy's really known for, and a bunch of people in the group started like mentioning his name or like alluding to it with like rhymes with this and bashing the ideas. And I'm a huge fan of the person they were bashing, and I got annoyed, and I started looking through the people that were really negative, and I noticed that like most of them were not in the arena. Like they were not actually doing the things. They had a lot of criticisms. They had a ton of things to say about the people that actually were, but they weren't doing it themselves. Like they just had criticisms, but they didn't have actions to back it up. Which the interesting part is the guy that had the criticism, or initially, like the person who made the first post, he does. He has a successful business and has every bit to say, hey, this isn't a great strategy, at least for me. But he wasn't necessarily knocking someone else. He was, you get the idea. And that had me thinking about a quote. It actually inspired me to design something, and I ordered a print, and it's now sitting on my wall. But I have this weird obsession with Theodore Roosevelt, and I wish I could explain it. It started in college. I was a political science major, so it is what it is. You can laugh at me all you want, but I have a bust of him on my bookshelf, and I've read more books about him than any human alive. And I went to Bible college, so I'm pretty sure I've read more books about Theodore Roosevelt than I have Jesus, but that is another story. I didn't graduate from Bible college. I just went for a little while and hated it. And anyway, so hence me being where I am. But it had me thinking about a quote that Theodore Roosevelt said, and I want to share it with you, and then I want to talk about two applications. So here it is. It's a little long. It's possible you've heard it before, but gosh, I love it, and I could read this every day. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. Whew, like that quote is so much to live by, and I think it has two major applications. First, when people criticize you and you notice, like I'd be willing to bet if you look at super negative people online, they're rarely doing anything. Like we post stuff on YouTube, and the people that comment like your microphone sucks or should have talked about this or whatever, I click on their channels and they never have a video. Ever. Like the most negative people never have content. When people criticize your store, when people talk about how you could do things better or whatever, you really don't have to listen to them. You don't have to give them that free rent of stress and whatnot in your mind that is so hard to not give them. But remember, like, you are the one in the arena fighting. Like, you are the person that is doing the work, trying the things, and you will fail. Like, you could launch Facebook ads and finally start doing that because you've been wanting to do it for a long time, and your ads won't be amazing. They're not. Your first few aren't going to have the voice that you want. They're not going to speak to your customers in the way that you want, but you are trying, and your next ones will be a little better and a little better and a little better. And over time, you're going to look back and see how much better what you are currently doing is than when you first started. And that is how this works, is we try and we fail and we try and we fail. And then we look back and we see that we have come such a long way. So I hope that is some encouragement to you, that if this week or in the recent past you've had someone criticize you and that criticism hurt, probably because the criticism was partially true and it had some merit to it, but it really wasn't their right to offer that criticism because they're not in it. They're not doing it. They don't know. Like, that's crap. Like, you don't have to listen to it. You don't have to give them the free rent in your mind. Now, the other application that I think is important is, like, a lot of times when I go shopping, and let's say I'm at a mall, it's really easy for me to look, I consult retailers, and it's really easy for me to look at retail stores, and I think about all of them. I'm like, oh, they should do this differently, and their display should look like this, and I walk in and the experience is different than I would have expected. And I'm so fast to say, oh, I would do this differently. They should do this. This would succeed. And a lot of times, these are businesses that are doing well. And it's so easy for me to think about what I would do different if I were in their shoes. But the truth is, who am I to criticize every single business? Or when you drive down a street and you see businesses and you're like, oh, they're going to fail because if they just did this, they're going to do better. And that might be true, and you might know what you're talking about and have reason to think that. But I found that by not being so easy to criticize and so easy to say, how I could do it better or how I think their strategy may not be as good as others, I'm just creating a habit in my mind that isn't healthy. And it doesn't lead to being able to meet people where they are because I'm so fast to criticize. Instead, I could come into a conversation with someone and speak to how awesome it is that they've come to where they've come to. It could be a store that just launched and they're struggling to get any sales, but they've gotten a sale. They got something, which means someone saw their stuff and said, I want that. And that they were bought into the story that the store or the site was sharing, and they did it. And we should praise that before we move to how they could do things better and where they can criticize. So I hope that this gives you some tidbit of, one, be slow to criticize, and remember that it's much easier to criticize and point out where someone could do better than it is to actually do it. And second, when you're in the fight and you actually are doing it and other people offer their criticisms, you don't owe them anything. You don't owe them an explanation. You don't owe them a response, and you don't owe them respecting their opinion. If they aren't in it, then you can ignore what they had to say. So, what I want to leave you with today is my favorite part of that quote. And it's the piece that I've highlighted, is who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement. That means if you keep going, the best case scenario here is you're going to crush it and you are going to know the victory that comes with your work. And I hope that that's you. But what I love is the second part, who at the worst, if you fail while daring greatly. You tried and you busted your ass and it didn't work out, but you tried, which is more than most people in this life will ever have. Most people aren't taking risks. Most people aren't taking chances on their business. They're playing it safe. They're working that job that they hate for someone else's empire, and you're out there building your own. So whether you in the end have that success and you get to taste that, or if you don't, if you've been thinking through closing your shop, you should not walk away from this story that you're in, this experience that you're in. Either way, you should not ever have to walk away with your head hanging, because you have already done something and dared greatly in doing it. So it's a little bit of a rant. I hope that you got some encouragement from it. One thing that I do want to share with you that I am so excited about is we have another round of our Mastermind launching soon. This is something that I do with Tara Austin from Ruthie Grace. Her store went from struggling to find relevancy, her online store slow, to being a multi-million-dollar a year business. And what were the strategies that were implemented there? So we teach this together, and it is so much fun. Of all the things I do, this is what I love doing the most. So registration opens this Sunday, which I don't know when you're listening to this, but if you are listening to this when it launches, we open registration on September 22nd, and that's going to go until the end of the week. You can register at Mastermind. It's mastermind.retailinitiative.com. So I hope that you'll check that out. We would love to have you be a part. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, I'm at RetailJosh. That's at RetailJosh. Shoot me a DM. Say that you check out the podcast. I'd love to say hi to you. But thank you for listening, and I will see you next week. Bye.